We're going to be taking a look at how to use the interactive value charts on Footballguys to create optimal DFS lineups based on our site projections. A link to the IVCs for all DFS sites can be found on the current week's DFS page, which you could get to right from the footballguys.com homepage. Once you're there, just look for the list of interactive value charts and choose the site you play on. We're going to take a look at FanDuel here in week 2. Maurile Tremblay does a great job laying out how to use the IVCs in the paragraphs here right above the value chart, and they'll always be there right on the page for you to refer to, but I wanted to give you a look at the IVCs in action. The first thing I want to point out, and this is really geared towards novice players, are the strategy guides. If you're new to DFS, I would highly recommend reading these prior to building lineups, because even though your goal is always to score a lot of points regardless of what type of DFS game you're playing, there are different factors you'll want to consider when building lineups for cash games versus tournaments, and Maurile, as usual, articulates them very well. You just have to click on the different sections to get to some valuable insight on general strategy, cash games, and tournaments. Now, onto the IVC itself. The first thing you'll want to do is choose the slate you want to play. By default, the IVC is set to display the full slate from Thursday to Monday, but for this example, we'll suppose we want to play the Sunday-Monday slate, so I'll click Sunday-Monday. It turns red, which means it's selected, and that will eliminate players from the Thursday night game from the chart. Next, you could select which data point you want to view on the chart for each player. By default, it will be projected fantasy points based on the scoring system of the DFS site. But I can also click here and change it to value or salary multiple, which is calculated by taking the player's projected fantasy points, dividing by salary, and then multiplying by 10,000. You could choose to view by H value, which is calculated by taking the projected fantasy points, raising it to the square root of 3, dividing by salary, and then multiplying by 2,000. I won't get into H value too much here, but check out our Cracking FanDuel ebook where Dan Hindry explains how H value can be a better indicator of true value than points per dollar, since it skews less heavily towards cheaper players who might score the most points per dollar, but not necessarily the most points, which of course is the ultimate goal. For this example, I'll just leave projected points, and then the last set of filters allows you to view only the position selected as you add players to your lineup. On the chart itself, you obviously see the player, position, game, and salary. Then you've got a column for each of our projectors. MT is Maurile Tremblay, double D is David Dodds, and an SB column in there for Sigmund Bloom. And of course, this column here is the average of each analyst. To sort the chart by any column, just click on the column header. So for example, if I wanted to list the quarterbacks in order of Dodds' projections, I would click on the double D column, and you'll see they're now sorted high to low based on his projected point total for each player. Now we're ready to start constructing, and in this example, we're going to create a tournament lineup. When I create tournament lineups, I usually start with a stack. If you click this top 20 stacks link, you'll get a list of the top 20 quarterback pass catcher stacks sorted by projected H value. This week, Andy Dalton and AJ Green lead the way, so that seems like a good place to start my lineup. To add a player to your lineup, all you have to do is click on their name. And if you want to get rid of them, just click their name again from your roster. You can see that as you add players, the chart automatically calculates a projected score for the players in your lineup, and your goal is obviously to max that out for each combination of players you choose. Now let's say in addition to the Dalton Green stack, you absolutely love David Johnson this week and want to get him in the same lineup. You can add him in, and now you have 6 empty roster slots. As long as you have 6 empty slots or less, you have the option of clicking any one of these green headers to optimize the rest of the lineup based on either a particular analyst's projections or the average projections. So if I wanted to stick with Dodds' projections, I would click the green double D, give it a second to do its thing, and now you can see the autofill players appear in blue. So based on Dodds' projections, this would be the best lineup we can build around the combination of Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, and David Johnson. And we have our total projected baseline score here at the top. Now where this is really useful for me is building multiple tournament lineups, because now I could keep trying different combinations of players around the same core of Dalton, Green, and Johnson in this example, and see how I could create more variations while keeping the score as high as I possibly can. So let's say on my next lineup I no longer want to use Jesse James and Vincent Jackson, and I'll see if removing my kicker helps me get to a tight end wide receiver combination I like better. First, I'll click their names to get them off the roster. Then I'll find Jackson on the chart and click the green circle next to his name, which will keep the IVC from placing him on the roster again. And I'll just do the same for Jesse James. Now I could go back to my roster, click on the projections I want to use again, and it fills in the next highest scoring combination of 3 players at those positions that fit under the salary cap. Remember, you don't have to use the optimizer. You could build the lineups all manually yourself, but it's a big time saver if you're trying to get in a lot of entries or you just want to shoot for the highest possible score around your core of players with different variations. I found it really useful building lineups in the IVC and having a browser tab with the DFS site open right next to it, so I can input each lineup I like and then move on to the next one. If you want to start with a new core of players, you could just clear all and repeat the process. And then if you want to play on another site, you have links right here to the other IVCs right on the same page.